Okay, so here we are. This is going to be the last video for this chapter where we talk about reasonableness. So it's the touchstone of the Fourth Amendment. It's the thing that makes the Fourth Amendment work. Like I said, the Fourth Amendment protects us from unreasonable searches and seizures. So therefore, we have to articulate why a search is reasonable, or we have to articulate probable cause in a search warrant to obtain the authorization of the magistrate. Okay, so reasonable is important. Okay, and you see a case here, Terry v. Ohio. Again, extremely important case. Absolutely everything you do as a law enforcement officer is impacted by Terry v. Ohio. Okay, so this is an extremely important case you're going to want to know about. Okay, you're going to want to read the syllabus, you're going to want to read the ruling. Okay, but in this one, the Supreme Court says that the central inquiry under the Fourth Amendment is the reasonableness in all the circumstances of the particular governmental invasion of a citizen's personal security. Okay, so that's a lot of fancy wording from the justices here. Okay, but the thing is basically it says what we do has to be reasonable. Okay, I had a wise old sergeant once tell me that we can do absolutely anything as law officers provided that it is reasonable. Okay, I can kill you provided that it is reasonable. Okay, I can take away your life. I can take away your liberty. I can take away your pursuit of happiness. Three things that come from the Declaration of Independence. I can do absolutely anything. I can beat you senseless. I can throw you in jail and forget where I put you, provided that it is reasonable. And that is what makes the Fourth Amendment the biggest and baddest bad boy of the Bill of Rights. Okay, so in Terry v. Ohio, we have a detective who is seeing a fella wearing a coat that's kind of unseasonable for the weather. He's kind of just hanging around on a city street in a part of town where, um, downtown near a jewelry shop where most of the businesses are already closed, and he's just kind of hanging around, looking kind of sketchy. And so the detective sees this and says, "Huh, that seems a little odd to me." And so he goes over and he stops this fella and he says, "What's your name?" And the guy tells him who he is and he asks for his address and all of this and finds out what he's doing. And from that, we are given what is referred to as the Terry stop. Or for those of you who are a little bit more adept at watching the news, stop and frisk. Okay. Terry v. Ohio is the case that allows us to stop people under reasonable suspicion. Okay. And reasonable suspicion is those circumstances and facts that would lead a reasonable officer to believe that a crime has or is about to be committed and that a particular person has or is about to commit that crime. And when we have developed that reasonable suspicion, we may stop the suspicious person, demand their name, their address, and the nature of their business, and we may detain them until we have either confirmed or dispelled our suspicions. Okay, so by confirming our suspicions, we elevate from reasonable suspicion to probable cause. Or if we dispel our suspicions, basically we go over and we find out what's going on, and then they prove to us that their actions are completely innocuous, and we say, "Okay, sorry to have disturbed you today. You're free to go." Okay, and so this is one of those things where I see a lot of times in the YouTube videos where somebody has been told time and again by whoever, if you're ever stopped by law enforcement, ask them if you're being detained. And so people will ask us, am I being detained? And it's absolutely beautiful whenever they ask me that. And I go, yes, because the thing is all of the legal advice has said, ask law enforcement if you're being detained. And if they say no, then you say, oh, then I'm free to go, and you leave. But they never tell you what to do whenever the police say, yes, you are being detained. And so it's really funny because you watch somebody's little head explode because they don't know what to do. But the thing is here in this instance, we get that, but then we also get the ability to frisk someone, which is a limited pat down of the outer clothing for weapons, provided that there's an articulable reason that officer safety warrants the pat down. Okay, so just because you have reasonable suspicion to stop someone doesn't necessarily follow that you can pat them down. You have to have reasonable suspicion to stop them and reasonable suspicion to believe that they might be possessing a weapon that can hurt you. Okay, so we get a lot of stuff from Terry versus Ohio, and everything has to be reasonable. Okay, the way that I explain the difference between reasonable suspicion and probable cause to my trainees is this: reasonable suspicion, which I've given you the formal definition of earlier. The working definition that I use for them is if you can look at a situation like a snapshot in time, take like a little snapshot photo and say, what is wrong with this picture? And then if you can answer that question, you have arrived at reasonable suspicion. And then, of course, the other thing is with probable cause, which I've shown you the formal definition of that just a little bit ago. With probable cause, the fast and dirty, quick working definition is this crime probably happened and this person probably did it. Okay, so the facts and circumstances that lead to your probable cause are the things that you can say, this is what makes me believe that this crime probably happened, and this is what makes me believe that this person probably did it. Okay, so that's kind of the fast and dirty on the working definitions of reasonable suspicion and probable cause. Two very important concepts that you need to know and understand and love deeply. Okay, because you're going to be stuck with them for the rest of your career. Okay, so that's going to wrap me up for chapter 3. So, again, as always, if you have any questions, do get a hold of me, and I will look forward to getting a hold of you in chapter 4.